All right, I'm recording now. Okay, we're up to 50. That's 4 releases done. This one was huge. Adding a tooltip. I'm sure when you all first started using XLights, does anyone know what the red means versus the not when it's not red? For me, that wasn't incredibly obvious. It would have been easier if these were broken when they weren't linked and linked when they were. And so now I at least give you a tooltip that tells you what's going to happen when you click on it. That unlinked it, that linked it, that unlinked it, that linked it. So minor little usability things. Start channel checks, we talked about that. FPP Connect, we're going to come back to FPP Connect because that's a much more involved topic, and it also includes the whole Falcon stuff. Multi-ArtNet universe adding. We showed ArtNet universe adding. You can add multiple universes at the same time, just like you can with E131, so I won't go back into that. I don't think that's significant enough. We talked about rubber band selection. The right-click menu on the controller list. So let me quickly go through that. I showed you a little while ago that I can shift, so I'm using the shift and the arrow key to select those, and I can go in and activate or deactivate controllers. I can also do things like bulk edit things. So I can bulk edit these things and change their IP address. I can change them away from multicast. Like so. So if you've suddenly had an IP address change, you can go and quickly edit them all without having to open up each one individually. I can also bulk edit these and say, actually, they should have been 512 channels. That's done. I can also go in and bulk edit the description as well. Another thing that I'm sure a lot of people didn't bother to do once the description field was added. But now you can bulk edit them as long as they're together. Actually, they don't even have to be together. You can also control and click discontinuously across the networks. The other thing that's been added is I can now actually click and drag these up and move them. And it will actually auto scroll as well if you've got a list that's longer than the screen. As you move to the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen, the list will auto scroll, which saves you having to click the arrow buttons hundreds of times, which used to happen. You'll also notice this is pretty snappy now. It used to be, particularly as you added the large number of universes here, this would really lag really badly every time you change things. It doesn't do that anywhere near as much anymore. The reason for that is I make you pay the penalty when you switch away from the screen. You're not going to notice with just these many universes, but if you're like me and you have well over 100 universes and you use extensively the universe start channel mapping, it's got to do a bunch of calculations to account for all the changes we just made to our setup, and that takes a bit of time. And so rather than having the lag here when you're trying to drag things around and fix it all up, you pay the penalty when you switch away from that particular screen. So yeah, we inserts. Okay, so when you do an ad, it adds it to the bottom, but now you can come up here and say, actually, no, I want to insert my controller here, and it will insert it into the part of the list where you did the right click, which means adding an extra universe in the middle here is not as hard as it used to be, where you had to add it to the bottom and then move it all the way back up again. Again, a painful process that we were trying to avoid. You can also do a delete here. You can select multiple and delete them as well. And then there's the upload to controller, and this is where you do all of that FPP and Falcon uploading. But like I said, we're not going to go there. We'll come back to that later. VU meter to use papagayo layout 0. Okay, so what this was you're all familiar with timing tracks. The VU meter has a number of modes in it which lets you where am I going to put it? Where's my matrix? There's my matrix. So there's a number of modes here where you can trigger off the timing mark. So timing event color. I choose the timing, which is new timing. And when I play that, using my shift, as it crosses each timing mark, it changes color. And that works fine off a timing track like this, but if this timing track was a papagayo track, it just wouldn't work. Now what it will do is it will actually read the top layer of that papagayo track, so that might be typically your phrases or would be the top layer. And so it will allow it to trigger off that. So you can do things like use it to automatically change color as you go from phrase to phrase in your song, that sort of thing. Okay, countdown timer in text effect. Okay, so a new developer, Jennifer, she hopped in. She needed some changes to the countdown in the text effect and jumped in and made basically, she added, I think she did this, I think she did the date formats and the like. I can't remember exactly which ones she added, but she added some additional formats here. To be honest, these things to date, etc., aren't particularly helpful because obviously XLights will render this at the time you create your FSCQ file. Sometimes having seconds or minutes, you might have an animation that runs between songs and you want people to know how long it is until the next song starts. So this stuff kind of makes sense. But to date, really doesn't make a huge amount of sense. It's more sensible to either do that in the X scheduler or in the Falcon Pi player, who both have, the Falcon's got plugins which will do that sort of thing, and X scheduler has that sort of thing built into it. But yeah, those countdown effects are in there. I must admit, I don't know which ones she added versus which ones were already there. When you do that, she's added some hints here about how to actually do it. Of course, much like the transitions up here, it only appears for a limited amount of time. So I don't know, screen print it while it's up. Make sure the list box is growable. It's been lost in time. I have no idea which list box he's talking about. Start all jobs. Okay, so this release was a time when we actually started to really work on performance of XLights, and so there was a bunch of work done both then and in January to try and clean up performance of rendering. And there's a number of sequences that people have had that are taking less than half the time that they used to take to render, and that's through some smarter uses of the threading and recognizing that we weren't taking full advantage of your PC, and now we do. Enhance, allow 180 degrees trees to rotate. So what he means by this is if you come in here and draw a tree, you can see that's a 360-degree tree, but we can make that a 180. And obviously it's facing front on, but it doesn't have to. There's a rotation that we can do here. Oh, is it that one? Which one is it? Oh. No, that's right. No, yeah, that should be it. So I set that to 40. Yeah, there you go. So they are rotated at 40 degrees, and you can see that the trees held its 180 shape precisely as a result of that, and never used to do that. So that was the fix or the enhancement that Dan added. Shutter support to the DMX model. Look, let's touch a little bit on the DMX model. I'm going to be the first to admit I have a limited understanding of the DMX model. The DMX model here, this is the moving head version. You have a number of options about how you want it to display. So there's the top-down look at it. There's the side-on look at it. And the 3D one is obviously the most impressive because it looks like it's there. Here's the skull. The skull, and there's something, I think I have to set that to 400. There you go. There's some default problems with the skull right now that I know Gil needs to get back to. You need to set the number of channels to 18, and you need to drop the degrees of rotation down in order to get it to look right. Otherwise, it doesn't display properly. So that's how you draw those models. You can then go and create a sequence based on them. And let's do DMX1 first. So to use them, you need the DMX effect, which is up here. And this is our light. And the secret to using the DMX effect is to use value curves. So you can manually change things. Willing to bet this hasn't been set up properly. Yeah. So you need to go and allocate the channels that you're going to use for each of these. And that's going to vary according to the configuration of your particular DMX moving light, if that's what you've got. So that's the shutter channel that he added in this particular release. And so now when I come over here and I move that channel around, you can see it's rotating it around. That one doesn't seem to do a great deal. Okay, that one's going to swing it over the top. Okay, you can obviously set the color. We should be able to set the color. I don't think I've set my color channels up. Oh, there. I've set the color channel up there. So that changes the red, the green, and the blue. Now there's, oops, layout. I thought it picked it up from the color, but obviously it's not. I'm sure there's a way to do that. But the other thing you obviously want to do is you want to do set curves. Sorry, let's do sawtooth. So that over time, the model moves over the duration of the effect. And that's how you drive for movement of the effects. You can do a similar thing with the face. Here, of course, you've got 18 channels to worry about. In this case, yeah, getting everything in exactly the right place takes a bit of effort. And to be honest, I doubt anyone's going to manually control their skull. What they're more likely to do is to import the VSA files in and apply those against that particular model. In order to do that, you need to come up and do an import effects, go over here, choose the VSA files. Of course, everyone has a VSA file or two laying around. Oh, it didn't like my VSA file. Anyway, yeah, so typically you would buy those VSA files to import and use with your skull. So I'm not going to cover that in any greater detail. I think Gil's got some good videos on both the moving headlights and also on the skull. And I'm sure as he finalises the skull stuff, because I still think he's polishing some of it up, I'm sure he'll put out a better educational video that covers the how rather than just showing you what can be done, which would be good. Don't worry about that. Okay. Add the ability to import timing tracks and lyric tracks from other sequences. Yeah, so obviously for those of you who are importing shows like particularly Logan's and the like, it's, you know, people are quite familiar with bringing effects in, but XLight sequences. And we'll grab this one. And that was all done down here where you had to go and map all of your models, etc. But what Dan's added is the ability for you to choose timing tracks out of that sequence as well and bring those in. which previously the only way you could do it was go and open up the sequence as it was given to you, do a right click on the timing track, export the timing track, and then you would create an X timing file, which you would then come over and import. This obviously makes it a lot easier to bring the timing tracks in with the sequence, and that makes a lot of sense because usually what you want to do is add some additional compensatory effects on some of your other models that maybe you couldn't find something to import into, and so having the timing tracks there makes it a lot easier to do that additional enhancements.